Welcome back to Motor Masters, your destination for raw power, unstoppable machines, and the history behind the world's most iconic military hardware. From cutting-edge jets to battle-hardened tanks, we explore the legends that defined warfare across land, air, and sea. Subscribe now and join us for a journey through mechanical might. Today we roll back the clock to one of the most influential and formidable tanks of the Second World War, the Soviet KV-1. The KV-1 tank, named after Soviet Defense Commissar Klim Voroshilov, was one of the most heavily armored tanks of its time. When it first appeared on the battlefield in 1939, and especially during the early years of World War II, it shocked German forces with its resilience. The KV-1 could shrug off nearly all anti-tank weapons the Wehrmacht had in its arsenal at the time, making it a nightmare to engage and a symbol of Soviet tank engineering. Weighing around 45 tons, the KV-1 was built for one thing: battlefield, dominance through brute force and survivability. Its most notable feature was its thick armor. With up to 90mm of frontal armor in early variants and improved protection in later models, it was practically immune to the 37mm and 50mm anti-tank guns that were standard issue in the German army at the start of Operation Barbarossa. German infantry and tank crews found themselves helpless as their rounds simply bounced off the KV-1's hull. The tank was powered by a V2K 12-cylinder diesel engine, producing around 600 horsepower. While this engine was powerful for its time, it struggled under the tank's massive weight, limiting its speed to about 35 kilometers per hour on roads, and much less in rough terrain. Mobility was never the KV-1's strength. It was meant to punch through defenses and absorb damage, not to dance across the battlefield. The KV-1 was armed with a 76.2mm F-32, or later ZIS-5 cannon, which was effective against most early to mid-war German tanks, including Panzer III's and early Panzer IV's. It also carried multiple DT machine guns for anti-infantry defense. The tank's firepower was solid for its era, but it wasn't the most accurate or rapid-firing weapon platform, partly due to the cramped interior and overworked crew. Speaking of the crew, the KV-1 was operated by 5 people: the commander, gunner, loader, driver, and radio operator and machine gunner. The internal layout was tight and often criticized for being ergonomically poor, which affected communication and efficiency in combat. Soviet tank doctrine emphasized mass production and armor over comfort or crew effectiveness, and the KV-1 was no exception. Despite its flaws, the KV-1's battlefield performance in 1941 and 1942 was legendary. It was often able to hold up entire German advances single-handedly. In some engagements, KV-1s stalled German divisions for hours or even days, giving Soviet forces crucial time to regroup or counterattack. The psychological impact on enemy troops was significant. Facing a KV-1 was like facing an unstoppable force. The Germans often had to rely on 88mm anti-aircraft guns or artillery to take them down, wasting resources that could have been used elsewhere. However, the KV-1's dominance didn't last forever. As German tank designs improved, especially with the introduction of the Panzer IV F2, Tiger I, and more advanced anti-tank weapons like the Pak-40, the KV-1 began to show its age. Its heavy armor became less of an advantage, and its slow speed and mechanical unreliability became bigger liabilities. One of the main criticisms of the KV-1 was its maintenance complexity. The transmission was notoriously fragile, and the suspension system often failed in rough terrain. The tank was also difficult to repair in the field, making it vulnerable to mechanical breakdowns during prolonged operations. These issues led to frustration among Soviet crews and commanders alike. To address some of these issues, the Soviets introduced modified versions like the KV-1S, which featured reduced armor and weight in exchange for better speed and reliability. But even with improvements, the KV series was gradually phased out in favor of the more versatile and better balanced T-34, and later, the heavy IS series tanks. Despite being outpaced by technological advancements later in the war, the KV-1 played a vital role in the early defense of the Soviet Union. It forced Germany to adapt, innovate, and allocate massive resources just to counter it. The tank also laid the groundwork for future Soviet heavy tank designs, influencing the formidable IS-2 and the doctrine of breakthrough tanks that would last well into the Cold War. In historical terms, the KV-1 wasn't perfect, but it didn't have to be. It arrived at the right moment with the right capabilities to deliver a strategic shock to German forces. It was a tank that bought time, saved lives, and helped shift the tide of war. It was an iron beast that defined Soviet resilience. Slow, stubborn, and impossible to ignore. Even today, the KV-1 remains a favorite among tank historians, model builders, and military enthusiasts. Restored models can be seen in museums, and its iconic silhouette continues to represent a key era of armored warfare. It's not just a tank, it's a symbol of endurance under fire. Thanks for diving into history with us here on Motormasters. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the legendary KV-1, give us a like and drop a comment telling us what vehicle you'd like to see next. Whether it's another steel giant from the past or the bleeding edge of modern military technology, don't forget. This is Motormasters, where we don't just admire machines, we live for them.